Hello disc golf fans and welcome to the 2023 Swedish Open final round coverage here. This is the fourth stop of the Swedish Disc Golf Pro Tour as well as the fourth stop of the Euro Tour. My name is Chris German and along beside me, probably a more familiar voice on this channel that you hear, Andrew Fish.
Hey, I'm back. We are at the beautiful Ymergårdens course in Borås, Sweden. And Chris, what a gorgeous layout.
Yeah, we've had such a privilege this year of being able to see a lot of these European courses be played with some of the highest level players here. So we have Clay Edwards, Joona Heinänen, Jakub Semerád, and
Jakub Knápek. Couple familiar faces if you've been following some of the American coverage this year, but also Jakub Knápek, young talent out of the Czech Republic, along with Jakub Semerád. Hole 1, 123 meters. It's a par 3, out of bounds all the way down the right side, and a slope off to the left, especially as you approach this green. Chris, we're starting off with a pretty punishing hole that averaged a quarter stroke over par.
Yeah, and we have the chase card here as they're just trying to make a run. Maybe not for the lead here, but definitely for a podium finish.
A little bit of left to right heady. I think Clay played somewhat overstable to try to counter that, but early releases and is not going to fight back in. You look for those white top stakes to mark the out of bounds at this course.
Yeah, maybe a little nerves for the final round there. Pulled that. Joona,
very smooth thrower, tons of power. Looks like he kind of backs off on a T-bird expecting the wind to help that, but he's going to trail down the hill to the left side.
I've had the privilege to film Joona a couple times throughout the years, going all the way back to 2020, and it's cool to see his game develop and continue to be here on these coverages.
Yeah, for sure.
Jakub here. Gets a little hung up on some trees there, but stays on the fairway, doesn't find the OB. So
it's probably layup territory over there. And Jakub Knápek, already with 2 top 10 finishes on the Euro Tour, perhaps an unfamiliar name to some of us, but certainly a very talented player. Also going to go fairway driver. And little Anheuser release, but nose up. He's going to find that left side along with Joona.
Yeah, a little shorter over there. We should expect to see Clay first, as he didn't get too far down the fairway.
No, pretty early turnover shot. That leaves him probably 80 or more meters into this green, throwing his third shot there.
Yeah, and that's going to be a tester for bogey. Jakub, like you said, just going to lay up, take his 3, move on.
Yeah, you have to pick your battles, especially on the final day when everybody's packed in.
Kind of what we would expect from Jakub as well. Not a lot you can do there.
And a little bit better angle here for Joona. Does give a little bid, but not going to go much beyond the mulch.
So to start your round with a bogey putt about circle's edge there, how does that feel as a player to start your round that way and have to make that type of putt and successfully make it? Is that a kind of a boost of energy and going into the round?
It's obviously frustrating to take a bogey, but Clay just minimized the damage, and he got that first putt out of the way. Everything after this is going to feel less stressful. And Clay, a very gritty player, in my opinion. Like, he doesn't play a super flashy game. Good balance of forehand and backhand. And he just doesn't give up strokes to the course very often. Makes his putts.
Yeah, very cool to see him on coverage. Everyone else here is just going to tap in for their par. Just going to move into hole 2.
Hole 2, 110 meters, a par 4. That is correct. Very short par 4. We're going to track uphill, and there's going to be a couple Mandos on this hole. The first one on the tee shot forces you to the right, and then later approaching the green, there's one that forces you to the left. The idea here, just get up the hill out into the open and then throw a disciplined approach shot as the green slopes away pretty hard on the backside.
Great shot there from Joona.
Jakub going to go felon, playing for the overstability. But that doesn't swing quickly enough, and he's going to find the out of bounds also. I'm sorry. He's going to find the out of bounds.
That out of bounds came up pretty quick, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's necessary when there's a par 4 that's this short. You have to, constrict the landing zone in some way.
Oh, no. Just hung up there right at the end of the gap.
So Jakub going to have to play a much longer approach shot. May not be able to see his landing zone properly.
Let's see if Clay can get a bounce back here. Good drive. Seems like the overstable disc and just getting it to get left is definitely the play there. That looks like a pretty good line.
Yeah, you see the similarity in how Joona and Clay threw their shots, like both committing to that hyzer and making it go left early. Jakub with the forehand, just letting it flex. He'll have another layup from there, but should be able to scramble for par.
After finding the OB here for Jakub, should be able to, going a little quick there, but should be able to save his par, unless it didn't roll down the hill there.
He's going to be inside circle 1, but towards the back edge of that. Joona, both of these guys having difficulty slowing the disc down enough with the tailwind affecting it as it approaches the slope.
You can see he threw that right into the ground.
I like the adjustment, though. I think the idea is land this 4 or 5 meters short and let it skitter up there.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how Clay is going to play the hole. Easy drop-in birdie to get himself back to par for the round. This is a par attempt for Jakub Semerád.
Weak side there, a little high. A lot of spin on it. You can see the wind in the background there is definitely moving. So,
yeah, not a bad effort, but moving up into the chains is difficult to get that to stick. From a pretty similar angle is going to be Heinänen for his birdie.
Oh, no.
And that one right side, much better driven into the headwind, but a 50-50 doesn't go his way. Knápek is able to convert on his par attempt. So despite this being the third easiest hole on the day, we're going to see the card net out at par. Perhaps a little surprising given how straightforward both shots seem to be.
Yeah, I would say at this level and being up in the top 10 here, battling for a top 10, these are ones you want to get for sure.
Hole 3 at 75 meters. You talk about a must get. This is one of them. Straight ahead, couple trees stacked on either side, and then some out of bounds to the long side. Clay, after his good birdie, good clean spin, nice and high, drifting to the right, and lands short of the bucket, scoots up to it. Another drop-in birdie. Now, here's another option if you're feeling squirrely.
Hey, I feel like half of the Pro Tour field would be trying this now at this point.
Despite the wind, despite the out of bounds. So Joona Heinänen just going to go play a spike, and with a good backstop and roll back. He called bank, Chris.
Oh, you got it on a shot like that. That was amazing. Looks like we're going to see another one here.
A little lower, a little wider.
It's probably going to drift left a little and a little long.
But still well inside circle 1. We'll have a birdie attempt upcoming. And Semerád, despite having plenty of power, is going to go up the gut.
More traditional route there. Just throw a disc straight. And finds that same tree. He's able to stop him. Oh, it looks like that one hung up. The way the camera made it look, I thought he went pretty far past the UDIS signs there. So,
and nicely done. Good strike into the chains for Knápek to get himself on the board. And easy money for Semerád. Looks like we're going to have all 4 birdies on the card. That's a good star frame. Way to go, everybody, making work of what you're supposed to do on a hole this straightforward. Hole 4, 158 meters. And the difficulty on hole 4 is finding a throwable spot for your second. There's this mandatory on the right side, as well as some out of bounds long and left that prevents you from being able to attack this in one shot. Imagine we could see some forehands as well as Clay going with a backhand. Playing for a steep hyzer flip. Does carry straight. And we'll see what he's left with there. Could be some funny footing and funny swing.
Yeah, at that point, I think he's going to be scrambling for par, maybe. Is that a really great skip on it?
Yeah, I think Heinänen got about twice as much after the skip as before, but does get himself to a throwable location, maybe a little short of the Mando. Much better height and width from Jakub Knápek, and a pretty good improvement.
Yeah, I would say that's exactly where you want to be. Jakub's, that's a little... All right, never mind. That was moving very fast to the right.
Yeah, absolutely. Climbs the hill somewhat. Certainly a theme on many Swedish courses like this, and I haven't had the privilege of playing Ymergårdens in particular, is what kind of footing are you going to have? You see the rockiness of this green as well as the landing zone that these next three players have landed in.
Yeah, us being so familiar to Iron Hill, being pretty local to both you and I, we're very familiar with these rocks and things and having terrible footing sometimes, even though you have a great shot.
Oh, yeah. Got to stand still. Fortunately, everybody's bitten off over half of the hole to this point. So going to see some 60, 70 meter approaches at most. And very nicely done finding the mulches, Jakub Knápek.
And that hill definitely is pretty steep when you look at it there. I mean, you definitely have to throw the disc a little nose up to get it up over that. You can't just throw a nice flat shot.
And that's a significant challenge to not stall out the way this is.
Mm-hmm. Inside the circle, though, should be able to get his birdie.
Joona going to be our first to putt. And that's perfect. 2/3 of the way up on the pole.
Great putt from him.
Mm-hmm.
Clay made it closer than I expected for his birdie putt.
But a pretty stunning lift in the middle of that flight. I liked the putt release, and it just carried up onto the band.
Yeah, this wind seems very tricky. It's that gusty wind that you get. It just comes and goes, and you can't really trust it where you don't have that consistency in the wind. So this is going to be a great tap-in birdie from Jakub.
Yeah, make it easy on yourself. Hole 5, 219 meters, a par 4, and what a dream hole, Chris. We're going downhill, trees lining both sides, and I think there's a couple different ways to play this. You can attack with a driver and try to get way down there, potentially even for an eagle bid, or you can be a little slower, try to play it with a mid-range or putter, and ensure that you stay in the middle.
Yeah, really good shot here, and you have to throw downhill as well, throwing that dynamic into this. This is a dream shot.
Heinänen turns his shot over.
This needs to turn.
And even this can survive. Yeah, it trickles down into the middle. I think the ditch on the right side of the screen right now is an okay landing zone, although with poor footing. Stable mid out of Jakub Semerád, and good discipline, kind of not getting suckered by his previous card mates, being more aggressive.
Still pushing far down the fairway.
And Clay Edwards, this looks really low, but because of how downhill it is, that's also going to push into a throwable spot.
Joona needs to get tricky here with a nice patent pending.
That's near Circle 2's edge, 20, 25 meters perhaps. Another forehand approach from Knápek, and he's asking for it to unwind.
Ooh. A little lucky there.
Yeah, fights pretty well.
Yeah, over here doesn't look too bad. It allows you to kind of just throw the hyzer right in there.
And lands right by the basket and then gets some extracurricular to the back edge of circle. This green sneakily downhill, difficult to make it stop in time.
Yeah, that's kind of seems to be the theme of this course. It looks like there's a lot of shorter technical holes, these par fours, but also some of these greens look pretty fast.
Heinänen does run his birdie attempt, but skips off the top of the basket. Knápek going to chain out left side.
Clay about 25 and cans it.
Tongue out like Jordan. Nicely done, Clay. Clay finished second at the rain-shortened Zootown Open this year. I'd be interested to hear if some holes like this he could draw on that experience playing at elevation with some pretty steep slopes.
Yeah.
And for the par is Heinänen. In, centered, nicely done.
Good putt from him, as we should have some cleanups here. Couple birdies getting strung together from some of these guys. We're moving now.
Yeah, a couple easy holes in a row, and then we're going to go to hole 6. Even at 91 meters, this is going to score at a tenth of a stroke over par. A couple different options. You can go straight at the basket or a turnover shot. It's pretty rare to see a hole without out of bounds under 100 meters getting only 11% in C1 in regulation.
Yeah, just that elevation just so high up. It's hard to get the disc to really work its way all the way up there. As a lefty, I look at this and it looks great.
You and Nathan both insist on that. Clay Edwards with a good shot, drifts it over to the right side, is going to be inside the circle looking up at the bucket. And Heinänen with the glove back on. Left side and low. Kind of see his glance down. It seems a little frustrated.
Yeah, I wanted to start moving there to the right, just a little too late in the flight. It's so.
And there's the challenge. You have to throw this disc at speed and hit a gap. So from well back on the fairway, it's going to be Knápek second. He's been proficient with this forehand thus far.
Catches that tree there. That's going to put him in a tough spot for par.
Honorable bid. Difficult to generate that much power while going uphill to an elevated basket. Heinänen for his birdie attempt. 15 meters or so.
Oh, good bid there.
I wonder if he marked it. If he marked it, that might have gone in.
Yeah. And Jakub.
Same deal. Once again, difficult to get it over top of the rim on the elevated basket. Clay to redeem the card, and does so nicely.
Great birdie. And it looks like if you almost kind of like turn it over and push it kind of to the right of the fairway, kind of where he gets, you don't have to worry about rolling down the hill as much on your putt coming back or anything, or worry about that elevation. He had a pretty flat putt overall.
Right. They've done a really nice job building up this green. You know, you see the basket on the stump, but they were also log wall near circle's edge. Mm-hmm. And that left side clearly built up more.
A little high there, but he's able to get it in for his bogey. So we're going to see a couple tap outs.
I think this golfing can improve our community in many ways. It brings people together.
That maybe some of these kids who feel a little bit lost could find something like disc golf, find friends, find people to come together and play the sport.
Encouraging people to work together, kids to know one another, love one another.
A way for these kids to have a really fun thing to do together.
I think that's what we need in the world, love one another and do life together.
Hole 7, middle of the pack in difficulty, 112 meters. There's a mandatory that forces you to the right, and that's a challenge because this hole just continues breaking to the left. You either need to throw something inside testing the mando to push straight towards the basket, or something that's swinging a little more aggressively through a backside alley.
Clay gets his really high, try to work its way all the way down the fairway.
Yeah, and I like that height, Chris. I like him throwing a neutral disc with a touch of hyzer and being high enough that he's testing the ceiling but has enough time to glide out to the left.
Mm-hmm. That was a pretty good line there to show that same type of height.
Heinänen a little more disciplined on the hyzer, but even that, you see how straight that seems to push relative to the fairway.
Thought he found the local line there for a second. As long as this stays clean, that looks pretty good.
Kind of that mid-circle 2 collection zone, it seems like. But very good power off of the straddle stance uphill for Joona Heinänen. Semerád to follow. And once again, going to come up just short.
Seems to put a little bit more on those as Clay just catches the band there.
Both those guys kind of finding center mass. I feel like it's okay to miss high or low. It's the left-right misses that are really indicative of something wrong.
Yeah, because then you know your whole line's off. At least your line's on. So that was a good putt there from Jakub. So he's going to get the birdie as well. A couple cleanups for par. Pretty middle of the pack hole right there, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple down for the card. Nicely done. Everybody had a chance at the bird. Hole 8, 102 meters, a par 3. Certainly the up-the-middle route an option, as well as big hyzer backhand. Go over this rock wall. There is some out-of-bounds long and right of the basket, and tucked into a small grove of trees. We know Heinänen likes his power shots where he can find them.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was going to go up and over. There it is. Just makes it look so easy.
Yeah, good reaction on the ground, but another 2-meter tap in.
All right, here's the number 2 doing that. So that one's going to get caught up.
And I believe that does come back inbounds, but still going to have to throw a approach shot to try to save par. Clay Edwards looking like fairway driver up the middle. Not going to do any funny business around the right side.
Yeah, that's just so much power. I mean, you're throwing, I feel like, almost 375, 400 just to get there.
See a little extra time from Clay. Getting his warm-up swings, visualizing the line, and rewarded well for it.
A little bit of tree love there. He should be able to pick up his birdie. Looks like this does play a little bit uphill as well, as you can see from the camera here. So,
and Semerád also going to test that right side. And drops near the rock wall. I believe that also is in bounds, Chris. That may have been out.
Yeah, the 3 European players are taking the big spike hyzer route, and then the American takes the fairway up the middle. That was a great bid for par.
And a couple easy birdies upcoming after good work on drives. Edwards, after that early bogey, 5 birdies. Happened pretty quick. And Joona Heinänen 4 down as well.
Wow, there's just so much OB so close there. Just throwing that spike.
Terrifying. Speaking of terrifying, we're going to go 222 meters through some thick woods, snaking downhill to the right on the tee shot, likely to see several forehands, and then footing very challenging in the midsection of this fairway. And then a compound turn, we're going to go back to the left, and the basket perched on a mound.
Yeah, this looks like a great hole. It's going to make you have to throw a couple different shots in your bag.
And I think you can kind of script your tee shot, but everything after that is going to be mostly improvisational.
Mm-hmm.
This the second most difficult hole on the course. And if I'm not mistaken, hole 18 was the most difficult. So we're going to start on hole 1 with the third. Hole 9 to end the front 9 is the second most challenging, and hole 18 the most difficult. I like the sequencing.
Yeah. Right in the middle of your round here, this is where you really need to have your mental focus on a hole like this.
Edwards pushes straight and then counts on the late stability. Does find the fairway. And more inside from Jakub Knápek. He's going to drop down early.
Yeah, that was definitely moving right. He could have been scrambling in the woods there. So hopefully it dropped down right on the fairway. Just a little short. But like you said, a lot of forehands here, scripted. Get the disc moving, and that seems to be the landing zone.
Yeah, I believe so. I think Jakub was able to find the path there. There's nothing good from here, Chris.
No, and this is actually fortunate compared to what I thought it could have been. All those trees that were to his right there was jail that he could have ended up in if that disc didn't get smacked down.
Yeah, we've seen the forehand talent thus far from Knápek. Makes good progress, but can't drift all the way back to the left. He's going to have another approach shot for his third.
If he's able to scramble and get par here, though, that's a well-fought hole, and you got to feel proud about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Point. I mean, par at this point is gaining .62 on the field.
Yeah.
Even among, say, the top 20, nobody's really eating this hole's lunch.
So Jakub's going to hang up some trees there. He's still just hanging out on the fairway, though.
And the critical error from Joona Heinänen chooses the standstill backhand, hits the tree directly ahead of himself.
I thought that was going to hit the cameraman for a second. That kind of scared me.
Yeah, poor guy. And early release from Edwards may have been kind of falling down the hill on his standstill. Hard to hold your balance. Heinänen's third.
He's got a lot of work to do.
Fights through nicely. He's going to have a chance to save his par, although, as I noted, drop off directly behind the basket. The unscripted forehand roller for Clay Edwards.
On a tough terrain, too. So if you're bringing that out on a course like this in this terrain, then you must really not have a good shot.
Sometimes all we have is a vertical disc around vertical trees and a modicum of hope. So kind of a position reversal. Knápek was in the worst trouble to start, but is going to carry behind the basket, putting back up for his 4.
You need a lot of touch here. Like you said, that really drops off behind the basket.
And a good little L2, L2, L2.
Yeah.
Edwards for 4. Is this the time to take a risk, Chris?
I think so. Stops there. He's feeling good. I mean, he's been able to hit the basket, like you were saying. His lines are there, so I think confidence at that point, you run something like that.
Mm-hmm. And Heinänen with a longer putt than his second shot was. That's a really, really critical scramble for his round.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was talking about. He's going to go into the back nine feeling great that he was able to save his par there.
And Knápek going to chain out left side. Pretty good putt. Just difficult to make that stick going uphill.
Yeah, and that seems to be the theme here. Is there's been quite a few holes where you're really putting uphill at this basket.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see a couple 4s and a couple 5s, but altogether, not that bad.
No, and overall, I mean, a couple of the guys playing pretty decent, a couple guys just hanging there. I mean, this course doesn't lead to a really high scoring, so.
Definitely. We saw the 12 down and 10 down were keeping folks on the chase card. So if you can target that 5 or 6 down per round, you're doing great.
Yeah, as we see here, Joona with a 4 down here, taking the lead on this card. We want to thank you for tuning in to this front 9 action of the final round of the Swedish Open. My name is Chris German. For Andrew Fish, we'll see you next time.